Don't worry. Like and subscribe. Airtime Podcast. Turn that bell on.
Jody,
Don't miss an episode.
This is the battery that you grabbed this morning?
Welcome back to the show. It's been a minute here, but it was the beginning of the season, so I was busy doing all sorts of things, and I'm really excited to kick off the winter with, dude. I watched all your footage. You're so sick. Thank you for coming on the podcast. We got Garrett Warnick on the show. Huge fan, even bigger fan now that I binged all your boarding. Really sunk in there how sick you are. So thank you for setting aside some time to get the winter kickoff podcast movement going. How you been?
Yeah, Jody, what's up, my man? All is well here. Just hanging out in Nelson at the moment. We just got a bunch of snow. Stoked on that. And likewise, been a fan of yours for a long time. We were teammates for a long time. We didn't get out too much in that stretch, but we did get one trip together, which was awesome. And always enjoyed your style of boarding. So stoked to be here.
Fuck yeah. Maybe touch on the trip that we did together. What did we do?
So we've been teammates at the old Billabong for a long time, and this year they finally put us out to do a little trip in Whistler. So we had about 10 days of boarding, sledding. You were kind of leading us around. Unfortunately, we did kind of get stumped with some weather. You had some, me barking at your ear every second. You were trying to guide us through the world of Whistler snowmobiling, which is pretty wild. But we had some sick days, got some boarding in, kind of, a little catalog shoot style, but nonetheless, good times.
Yeah, so Billabong has since closed its doors on snowboarding, from the sounds of it. At least that's how my call went. I've been on them for a while, but you've been on Billabong for a long time. Touch on, do you think it was a good idea that Billabong pulled the plug from try and steelman that? Do you think that there's pros and cons to Billabong pulling out of snowboarding?
I mean, I think for me and you, it's a big con. I don't know who it's a pro for, but obviously we're the bunt of that joke more than probably most people. Yeah, it's been an awesome 10 years on Billabong. Kind of, I had so many amazing experiences, trips, and got to meet Vole and Bodhi and even Arrow in the very beginning, and they kind of helped show me the ways in the backcountry. And some of our original catalog trips were the first time I got to hit pow jumps and get filmed and ride backcountry, so I'll be forever grateful. I think it was going super good. We had an awesome program, an awesome team with yourself included, and even that trip to Whistler, it felt like the outerwear was really good and the team was bonded well. I felt like we had a lot of potential to do some amazing things. Unfortunately, that door got shut, and I don't think it was anybody's call that, was overseeing us. I think it came from another place higher up on the chain, and yeah, pretty big bummer. But I feel like at least I was lucky to have all the time I had with him.
That's a good way to put it. I think that it was a disappointment just because growing up, I used to watch a lot of the early Billabong team riders. Not early, like the Noah Slasnick was before me. But when I think about the Hard, the Hungry, and the Homeless, Billabong used to present movies. They were in the scene hot in the 90s, early 90s, and they had a really cool vibe. That's the impression I got. And then as I really started getting into snowboarding, the Cale Stevens, I'm drawing blank right now, Kevin Jones, Tara Dakitas. Yeah, that whole group, such a sick part of snowboarding. Alex Cantan, the list goes on to Bodhi, and so many good riders involved in the company over the year. I just think that whoever made that call just forgot about the roots, man. They forgot
Yeah.
about the roots.
Yeah, it's such a bummer. You're right. They had so much 30 years of snowboard history, and the gear was sick, and everything they were doing with the program was awesome. I felt like we were gonna have our time to shine. It felt like that to me, especially when we were doing that trip in Whistler. It was like, they had put the works out there for us. We were doing this sick trip. I just thought like, okay, that we've got some momentum. Let's fucking run with this. And we kind of got the door slammed in our face instead. But that's snowboarding, I guess. And hats off to Billabong. They had their name in the game for a long time. So at least they hipped up some sick riders over the years, and us being some of them.
Wow. What a nice, mature response to an ending. I like it. You know what? One thing I've learned about snowboarding, it's a small ass community, and you don't want to be out there burning bridges. So I think you did a great job of summing up a closing chapter, another closing chapter in snowboarding, ladies and gentlemen. Another chapter is closed. Whoop, boom, Billabong out of the game. It's like,
Yeah, are we allowed to say that even? We're good, right?
yeah, our contracts are up, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, it's easy to be bitter, but I feel like at some point everybody in snowboarding has a reason to be bitter, and you see a lot of people that are pretty bitter at snowboarding, and I don't really think it does much, so try to not stay bitter in this world. We'll see what happens.
Love that. Fucking love that. Try and not stay bitter. Oh, what that's a lot of energy. I've been a little bit bitter, maybe like a couple times throughout my life. Everybody has.
Yeah,
And
we
it's
all
just
have.
it takes so much time and energy. It's a waste. So if you're feeling bitter right now, just let that shit go. I got a question for you back to the beginning. You said Nelson's getting some snow. Is it really, really, really cold in Nelson right now?
Yeah, it's cold, man. We've had like Arctic front, right? And it's been super cold ever since like November 1st. I feel like summer was so warm, so long, so nice, like 30 every day, and now it's just been real cold. But at least it's snowing. We're like probably got a few feet in the last couple of days, so I'm stoked about that. Seems like a start, at least.
Well, I saw the video you posted this morning. You split boarded straight out of your house, up some hills, and then back to your house. I loved that video so much. I was like, this is the content I'm on the gram for. This is fucking
Oh,
sick.
thanks, buddy. Yeah, that was pretty gimmicky, but I was sick. I got some like micro turns, put the skins on. I was nice and warm. So that was dope.
Why Nelson? You moved to Nelson. That's BC interior. Bald Faced is located there. The home of Justin Hosnick, Absinthe Films. Why did you decide to settle in Nelson these last couple of years?
So I moved up here like 1.5 years ago, last summer. And to come around, full story here, I originally came to Nelson. Well, I came here first time to film an Absinthe film, like way back in the day, with me and Jaeger cruised up here, and we spent like a month kind of riding the streets, and Austin, Sweden with us as well. So that was like my first intro. And then that was probably like 6 years ago, but maybe like 3 years ago, right before the pandemic started, I cruised up here and just crashed out with Justin for like a month, shredding every day. It was like with Nicholas kind of right when he was still in the scene, and we had our other buddy Johan with us, and Hans was up here, and we were just at Justin's house and having a blast. And then snowboard season kind of ended, and I had hurt my foot, but Justin was just going out with Jamie Lynn every day, and so I was like, shit, I should just go out and help these guys out and listen to these stories and eat hot dogs, even though I couldn't shred. So I did that for like a month. And then the pandemic kind of started, and I had the choice of like, should I stay here in Canada and wait this thing out, or should I go home? And I was like, well, I ain't got nothing to do, so I'm going to stay at Justin's house. They've got a sick house down in Beasley with like an extra acre, so you can kind of go roam around. And at the time, Cash's, their son was like 7 or 8, and they got some dogs, so lots of company. And I ended up staying at his house for like 6 months in the beginning of the pandemic, and kind of just hunkering down with his family. And it was an awesome time. And I got to know Nelson and the surrounding area. And then I bolted back to Bend, and pandemic was going on, and I really wanted to learn how to play piano a little better. I'd been like getting into it a lot on myself. by myself, but I was hitting some roadblocks, and I was like, okay, I got all this time. So Justin's wife, Kate, told me about awesome music program here in Nelson at Selkirk College. And I was like, all right, I'm going to apply for this music college. You have to like play these piano things and send in a video and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'll just do it and I'll see what happens. I learned how to play the thing, sent them a video. Like a month later, got accepted to the school, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. And it was online at the time through Zoom because of the pandemic. So my first year of school, I was just down in Oregon hanging out. And then it was sick, did the first year of school, a little different experience just being on Zoom. And then the next year rolled around, Canada kind of dropped some of those COVID protocols, and school went back in session. And so last year, when I moved up here in the summer, I went to Selkirk full time for the first semester. Then I did kind of like a half semester and finished my 2-year music program. And then that ended last year, coming back around. So that's what brought me up to Nelson. And then Justin and Kate, that's kind of how I knew about it. And then after music school ended, I'm just like, interior is pretty sick. It's an awesome place to come back to. Being out in Whistler is super crowded. My room here in Nelson's like pretty affordable. So I'm like, this is a pretty rad place, and getting to know the interior a bit. Like we've got so much sick recreation opportunity with relatively few people. So I'm kind of stoked on interior. I'm kind of like an interior boy these days. We'll see if it lasts or not. But yeah, that's why I'm in Nelson.
Beautiful. That was awesome. Okay. Why, you said a lot of cool things in there, but why the piano? Why the piano? What drew you into this thing?
This is what happened. I originally started filming for Absinthe, and as soon as I kind of got the nod from Justin, like, you're going to be in this movie, I'm like, okay, I want to go to Europe. I always loved Europe. Just like, why ride a snowmobile when you can take a chairlift? Why snowmobile home when you could be in a freaking tavern at the bottom of the Euro bar, just like having a blast? So as soon as I got the nod that I could go, I like, the cheapest route for me, I think, was to fly to Paris and then take the train from Paris to wherever it was in Switzerland. And I did that. I went to the train station in Paris, and I was like 4 hours early for this train down to Switzerland. And of course, I have like nothing else to do. I've got my snowboard bag and I'm in Paris and I'm broke. It's like, all right, I'll just sit in the train station. And they had a piano in there. And in the course of this 4 hours, I saw so many rad people come and play the piano that was sitting there. And like, old people were coming to play, young people, like one dude would be playing a song, the next dude homie would jump on and like help him out. And so by the time I left on the train to go to Switzerland, I was like, I'm going to learn how to play the piano. And one day I'm going to come back to this train station and I'm going to play the piano on the train station. So I haven't done that yet. I'm still on my long journey back around to Paris, but I'm hoping one day to play the shit out of that piano.
That's so dope, dude. Fuck, I hope you go back to that train station and light it up. I
will.
I love those videos of people who are so musically talented just playing in the middle of like a really busy public space. It's like there's so much chaos around, and then there's this person playing like the most beautiful music, and everybody is in such a rush that nobody's really even like, well, not nobody. There's a small group that always stands around and is like, holy shit, this guy's playing the piano. And everybody else is like, I got to get home. I got to make dinner. I got to get to my job. I got to get to my flight. And it's like, it just shows you how busy everybody is. And, you know, you're in the middle of do you say a train station? So yeah, people are busy, but like it is, if you can stop and watch somebody play the piano in the busy public transit space, that's a vibe. And it's one that I'm really into.
Yeah, I had no other choice. I mean, I wasn't going to drag my board bag around Paris for too far. So I was a captive audience, and yeah, it all started there.
Growing up, did anybody in the household, a family member, did you have jazz growing up? Because I see that you make these like little edits all the time. I mean, you're always playing around with little edits and making little things. And I like the taste of music you use. It's like jazz, flowy, and it works really well with snowboarding. And I think that you're ahead of the curve. I think a lot of people will use that in the near future, myself included. Like, I love jazz music. I come from like a jazz background. One of my best friends' dad's a jazz musician, and I played the trumpet for a long time in a jazz band. And I love jazz music. And I've always noticed that about you. is that you use jazz and it reflects the snowboarding so well. I love that.
Sick, buddy. I didn't know you played trumpet. That's awesome.
I used to.
Yeah, I mean, going to school, jazz is like the upper echelon of music, you know, like it's just the hardest shit to play. So everybody's kind of frothing out on it. But I guess with Instagram, I'm like, I don't have much in the world to say on Instagram. I don't get much. I don't have much to put out there. But the only thing I can do is choose like 10 seconds of music on the Instagram Reels to like, all right, well, at least I like this music. And if nobody else likes it, at least like this is some shit that I believe in. Like, let's use Miles Davis. You know, the world should know about Miles Davis. So it's like, in town, actually, I was helping out at the snowboard shop like the last couple of months, just going and doing a couple of shifts, selling some gear on the floor. And one of the main things that I liked about the snowboard shop is that I could choose which video was on screen. So I'd walk in there with like a chip on my shoulder, like everybody's learning about Think Tank today, whether they want to or not. Like today's Mitch Richmond, you're getting Think Tank and you should like it. And then other days I'd come in there and be like, people got to know about the TB1 and 2 series. Like that's going up on the TV. And every 40 minutes, I'm like, I ain't got much, but when I'm here on this day, I got to show the world what they should be watching, you know?
Okay, let's throw this back here because you said that Justin Hosnick gave you the nod. You don't just quickly get the nod from Justin, who's made some of the most, I don't know, just the most historic, most impactful snowboard videos of all time. How did this whole get the nod from Justin start?
Okay, so, well, you know, Billabong and Absinthe kind of have a history, and I was on Billabong since I was young. And sometimes there would be a little toss out, like if you remember David Peachy and Andrew Mariner were doing it, and they would kind of like hint at me like, oh, you want to film Absinthe this year? And they would kind of just messing around with me, you know, but there was that connection that Billabong had a lot of riders doing it. And then one year, it was like right after New Year's, I just got a call from Bodhi. He's like, yo, we're in Minnesota. J-Rob just left. Can you be here like tomorrow? And he was with Alex Sherman, Shane Charlie Boy, and Hosnick was there as well. And I'm like, damn, I'm there. I'm there for the street trip. So I flew to Minnesota to meet those guys. And we probably did like 2 or 3 weeks filming street. And kind of in that 2 or 3 weeks, I met Shane Charlie Boy. I met Justin Hosnick, hung out with him. It was like a good fit. Things were going good. And then, of course, with the sponsor money, it's like a bit crazy at the time. But I think I probably like talked to whoever I was riding for, and they were going to do a little bit, and Justin was going to let it slide and get me in. So over the course of that like 3 week street trip, it was like, all right, you can film for Absinthe this year. And then right after the street trip, I ended up going to Europe for like at least a month or two, just because I was like, I don't know how long this is going to last. Like that's kind of how I always looked at Billabong. I was almost all the things with snowboarding. Every time I'm like something good is coming out, I'm like, shit, I don't feel like this is gonna last. Like, you know, that's how I've just felt with snowboarding. Like, yeah. So as soon as I had that opportunity to like be in Europe and hang out with those guys, I jumped on it. And at the same time that I flew over to Europe, it was like Max Blurry's first year in Absinthe, and then also Sevi Vandermeer. So we had like a sick little crew of us rookies, and we were just like young and dumb and hungry and going out filming. And the other part of Absinthe, Vladdy, who's over there in Europe, is like super OG, knows all the spots. So he was just watching the three of us like stumble on everything. And yeah, it was rad learning with those guys, like all being rookies and getting the experience together.
How important is that, eh? Seizing opportunity. Imagine there was like a bit of, which I'm imagining you did, a bit of self-doubt. You're like, shit, should I go on this trip? This is crazy. I'm going to film for Absinthe. And I'm like, I know for me when I was young, getting the bold first calls, like, do you want to go out tomorrow with Devin or Ika? It's like, you're like, yeah, of course. But there is a part of you, at least for me, that was like, damn, but like, should I go or should I just like go ride the park tomorrow? But damn it, you got to take those opportunities. Because I mean, imagine you said no to that. Maybe that door would have never opened itself again. And instead you're sitting on so many, I mean, at this part, I would say overlooked video parts. That's how I'll say it. Because when I watched all your shit, it was just like, damn.
Sick, buddy. Thank you. Yeah, no, I was super hungry at the time. Like as soon as I got the go ahead for Absinthe, I was super stoked. I remember like before that year, kind of looking at it, like oh, these dudes are too heavy. Like, I'm just gonna not be able to kind of like merge with what was happening. But then as soon as I kind of got into the scene, it worked really well, like especially with Bodhi and Alex on that first trip. And then when I went to Europe, like a few days afterwards, J-Rob showed up and we just shredded like the whole month together. And that was like one of the best months of snowboarding in my life. And to this day, me and J-Rob are like amazing friends. And I remember we like, actually the movie just came out about this spot called La Zone in Champéry, like Absinthe's kind of like honey pot there in Switzerland, but it's kind of like an hour walk up, and we spent like a month there. So every day I just walk behind Jason and try to keep up. And the whole hour hike, he'd just be like telling me stories about stuff. And I was just back there like loving it, you know, probably like smoking some weed before the hike and just tuning out to these crazy J-Rob stories. So it's like that's got to be like one of my favorite chapters of my filming snowboarding. Like as far as when I was doing it, I mean, every year you film, you look back and you're like, oh, that was so sick. But when you're doing it, sometimes you're like, oh, what the fuck is going on? But at that time, I actually had the sense to be like, okay, this is fucking insane right now. So stoked on that.
Oh, yeah, you need that. You got to slow down every once in a while. I really liked a podcast I just did with Heikki Sorsa. He said something about he likes the one thing that he liked about smoking cigarettes is it gave him the time, the 10 minutes during his busy life of being a super pro to slow down and like take it all in. And I'm not suggesting anybody picking up cigarettes, but I'm definitely saying that a lot of people don't spend that 10 minutes a day to just appreciate the little things in life. And that's nice to hear at such a young age that you were smart enough to kind of be like, damn, this is crazy. I like hiking this mountain and listening to these J-Rob stories. This shit's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if I was smart at the time, but I think it was like being there with J-Rob and the stories, and I think everybody would have had a similar outlook, but totally taking that time. I mean, that's what I wish I would have done more when I was on your trip, especially now seeing that, you know, Billabong kind of shut the door. I was like, well, we should have just spent like 2 bottles of hot sauce a day. We should have just been chilling out like brandy wine, doing party laps, you know, but yeah, hindsight.
Yes. Let's get you to share one of your favorite J-Rob stories. It could be snowboarding, like a trick that he's done, or just a story about him, because that individual is amazing.
Yeah, J-Rob's awesome. He's such a rad dude. I remember at the time it was kind of like when I was walking up the hills with him, he was going through some crazy shit, which was his big article. I don't know if you remember. He like
I do.
got busted growing weed, and then he had to talk to the, you know, indigenous people community and then get out and then blah blah blah. I mean, J-Rob's just always had some crazy shit going on, like which was super awesome. I don't really want to jump in on any of J-Rob's stories. I'll let him tell him that. But yeah, now he's living in Port Angeles, Washington. My brother's living there as well, so I was up there visiting this summer. Got to hang out with him quite a bit. He did knee surgery. He got some knee surgery done, so he's recovering. I think he's going to be good to shred this year, so we should see some fire J-Rob clips. But it was funny. I was talking to him. He's like, yeah, dude, I got this sick insurance, because J-Rob's kind of always scheming something up. He's like, for the first time in my life, I'm trying to figure out how to make as little money as possible. He's like, I've always tried to make as much money as possible, and now my life is turned upside down. He's like, I just try to make as little money as possible. I stay on this insurance. He's like, if I make $1 over, I'm fucked. So I got to make like this perfect number and live off this like tiny amount of money every month. He's like, but I'm loving it. And he's like got his little tiny house in the woods someplace. Somebody's helping him out. We went out on a kayak, and we were like full gear, like 2 snowboard jackets on, everything. And then there was like little microwaves coming through, and we decided to surf, and we did like 3 or 4 before we flipped the thing, and we ended just coming back like so drenched. But nice hang with J-Rob.
Yes. See, that's what we were going for. What about J-Rob snowboarding? Did you get to witness any J-Rob kind of going ham? Because if you were filming with him, it's like every time J-Rob straps into a snowboard, it's a gift from the gods. The guy is a freak of nature with talent, and I don't feel like anybody could say that J-Rob is a predictable snowboarder.
No, he's got to be top 3 for me. And I look at his Absinthe parts, like some of the things he did in Alaska are just like out of this world. And I'm sure, yeah, I didn't bear witness to any of his Alaska snowboarding. Those guys were pretty crewed up. Like he was with Manuel and Lucas Dabari, and they just went totally crazy that year. And they had like their shit was unlocked. But when I went over to Europe, we did. I think this was the first year I was filming for Absinthe. We did like a. Anyways, we ended up going to Europe twice, and I remember we were in this little village in Italy, and we were shredding. And to this day, J-Rob did the biggest air that I think has ever gone down on snowboarding. Maybe not Mike Bassett's like jumping out of the helicopter, but I'm pretty convinced it was like the biggest air I've ever witnessed or known about. And it's a shot in Absinthe. He kind of like jumps this mountain. It just doesn't do it justice at all. Like this thing was so fucking huge. It was probably like 200 feet from takeoff to landing, and it took like everything he had. Like J-Rob went fucking huge. I remember he got smoked a few times on it too, and then we like got back. He did the thing. He was like, he put his heart and soul into it. And I had some like leftover like whatever sleeping pills or something for the plane that I had, and he just like gobbled those up, and he was gone for like the next 24 hours. The homie slept. He has just like refueling after that one. But yeah, that was an insane J-Rob moment. I mean, lots of insane J-Rob moments happen, and he is definitely a catalyst for just cool shit going down, or crazy shit going down, or you know, unplanned shit going down. Like yeah, like you said, definitely. Yeah.
All right, you say top three. You threw J-Rob in the mix. Who are maybe two other riders you would throw into your top three?
Ooh. Well, I gotta say, I'm gonna say Voli Nivel as well. Voli's in my top three. J-Rob's in my top three. If I got one more, I mean, there's so many amazing riders. Obviously, like Gigi and all the people we grew up snowboarding with. But as I've been in snowboarding for this long, I've kind of got to know the person for them to be in my top three. Like, you know, we know everybody in snowboarding. That's just what happens that when you snowboard for your entire life. And at this point, yeah, I hold close and dear. My favorites are also people that have just been inspirational on board. And then when you meet them, they're just good-hearted people and take the time to like, we're pretty blessed as snowboarders to go places and travel. And I always am stoked when people like make the effort to go and see the places they travel to. Like, oh, you're going to Finland for a rail trip, like see Finland, like, you know, double down, because who knows the next time you're going back. And I feel like J-Rob was like great at that, you know, wherever he went, he was going to make the most out of it, regardless of what was going on around him. So Vole, if I had to go on another third, shit, that's tough.
Yeah, I feel bad for you.
I mean,
Hey, throw out maybe like a couple then, so then you don't feel so bad.
well, Manuel as well. He's like insane snowboarder and needs a little love. So lots of love to Manuel. Gigi, of course, like watching Gigi snowboard, especially growing up. Gigi was like always my favorite, like future proof days and stuff like that. I'm not really watching too much rail snowboarding back in the day, but I grew up number one Chris Grenier fan. My street dog was Grandy's for sure. Like Grandy's part was the shit. Always loved that. And I mean, Grandy's is still in there. We'll give Grandy's top dog in the streets, you know?
That was dope. His Get Real part, I'm imagining, Trans World.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course. Get real
yeah.
part. But Granny's always brought the vibe, you know, too. Like when you're young and watching somebody snowboard, you want to see good snowboard tricks, but you also want to have like a part with personality. I know we're kind of drifting away from that, but back in the day when you had a part that like encapsulated the personality as well, it was like that extra freaking level of fun to watch.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, we should start bringing like, you know, when you go out and you film and you're like, dude, Rossman, you just got the banger. Like, we should start talking about lifestyles like that too. Like you with the bottle of hot sauce, like Jody just got his fucking Ender lifestyle shot, you know? Maybe we'll bring that back.
I hope so, dude. A good lifestyle shot is worth its weight in gold for a video part. That shit works.
Totally.
Okay, so maybe to drag this back to Absinthe, what was your favorite Absinthe movie?
I would say future proof soundtrack vibe. And if you remember back in that day, it was DVDs, and future proof had a bonus thing. Like every time the logo came up, if you hit enter on your DVD remote, it would take you to some special behind the scenes shit. And that video was insane. That's my favorite Absinthe film. Yeah.
I love that you brought in the DVD click. That was like the coolest thing ever when DVDs came out. And then somebody was like, we should make a bonus feature thing. These things are gold. And they're normally like your favorite, like seeing like Scotty Arnold and stuff like that behind the scenes when you're a young kid. You're like, that's what you want to see. Because then you relate to the personality, and then that person becomes your favorite snowboarder if you can kind of like relate, or you like their kickflip or whatever.
Totally. And it's like bringing it back. I'm like, all my favorite snowboarders are people that I've like grown to know and love. And when you're young, you don't get the opportunity to hang out with Scotty Arnold, which luckily we do now because he's the fucking shit. But back then, when you go into the extra, it's like you got to hang out with him for a little bit. So it's like you are getting to know him. And that's how like people, I mean, like even now when I am in snowboarding, it feels like sometimes I don't know if I've met a person or not because I already know what their voice is like. I already have heard them talk, you know, like some of the older pros, it's like, yeah, you already feel like we know everybody from watching all the videos and stuff. And then you meet them and then you're like tripping out because you're like, oh, this dude's like totally exactly the same.
Yes. That's so and snowboarding is really small, like you said. It's like a really small community. You think it's big when you're like a kid, but then you do it for your whole life. And then you're like, damn, this is a small ass community. And one that you grow to like more. You realize that there's not so many differences between everybody too. Like when you're a young kid, you're like, oh, all these people are different and this crew's different. But then you get older and you realize that at the end of the day, we're all just snowboarding, and that it's pretty easy to hang out with anybody. I used to be so scared to go on trips with different snowboarders because I'm like, well, what if this and what if that? It's like, dude, if you just go anywhere, the vast majority of snowboarders are just awesome. Has that been a shared experience for you, or have you, like, because you've been around the map, dude? It's like when I think about you, it's like you've lived all over the world, you've traveled the whole world, you've filmed for so many different production companies. Do you feel that the vast majority of snowboarders tend to be on the easygoing, fun to hang out with side?
Totally. I mean, we're all snowboarding. So I think different levels. I mean, of course, some people get really wrapped up in what trick they're doing and have like, you know, full freakouts at the spots and stuff. That's like a love of the sport. So you got to roll with that. But yeah, I think generally we're all there to have like a pretty good time. And I think now more than ever, we kind of like, you know, back in the day, there was a lot of people making money and there was a lot more like snowboarding's fucking hardcore and this and that. And then you had like tight pants versus like Tech 9 and maybe a little bit more beef. And I guess if everybody's making like 100K, everybody's like got a reason to talk big. But now everybody's scraping by and maybe standing a little closer together and being like, you know what, we're all just trying to fucking make it, because it's like trying to snowboard, trying to film, trying to balance, like trying to make enough money to spend all your money snowboarding, like, you know, kind of the shit that we're going through right now. Everybody's scraping by. So I think these days people are doing a pretty good job of like recognizing that we're all on our own paths and we're all trying to make the best out of it, and there's no reason to shame or hate people.
Totally. I agree with that. I like where you took that, because I agree. I think snowboarding has become a lot more humble. I said before you just spoke that I think that snowboarding has always been this like really inclusive space that's always been like fun and everybody's been awesome. But now that I'm really looking at it, you're kind of right. There was a little bit of like, you wear tight pants, I wear baggy pants. But then you start riding the chairlift every day with that person and you're like, oh, okay, like this guy's awesome. Weird that there was any sort of, I don't want to say beef because it's like not that serious, but there was like a tension or something like that, or a vibe. It's like going to the skate park or going to a new place and you being like, damn, like these people dress a little different than me. So like you can feel the social tensions. But those have kind of dissipated, like you said. I think that maybe snowboarding has matured a lot, at least we're hoping. And it's a little bit more humble because maybe everybody doesn't have the $100,000 contracts to have the big egos and stuff like that attached with it all. So I mean, yeah. Do you like the direction that snowboarding's headed right now, which is a big kind of open-ended question, but take it where you see fit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you said, there's so many different avenues, and it does feel like I'm stoked on a lot of the stuff that I watch. I've been watching a little bit less street stuff, but I just watched that video WAP last night, which was pretty sick. They're dropping in, bomb drops are in, which I'm pretty fucking down with. It's not that much snowboarding, but it's pretty fucking sick and it's really fun to watch. And then at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of stuff like as far as like kind of alpinism goes. And I guess I'm like trying to push myself in that direction a little more, just riding with Jones and being able to like hang out with the people on the team, just figuring out what the hell it is to like get around the mountains and stuff, because that shit's pretty serious. So I'm kind of stoked on that aspect. And yeah, I think snowboarding's going a pretty good direction. It seems like nobody really gives a shit about contest anymore. I mean, even with the Olympics and stuff, it's like a week that everybody's paying attention, and then it kind of goes back to like all of us and what we're doing and stuff. So it seems like there's a good like flame of core snowboarding that's still burning. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'll touch base on bomb drops. I agree. Bomb drops are fucking awesome. I used to think like if you asked me this 10 years ago, I would be like, fuck bomb drops. But now I just went on a trip, mountain trip. Shout outs to all those homies. And Cody 69, one of my favorite boarders here in Canada, jumped off of a hospital, bomb drop, strapped in, and I was like, as soon as I saw him jump out of the fucking hospital parkade, I was like, bomb drops are and maybe it's because his snowboarding just reflects and works so well with the bomb drop. It just, maybe there's certain people, like if Seb Toots did a bomb drop, and I ain't talking shit on Seb, he's got his lane, but if Seb Toots did a bomb drop, I wouldn't give a fuck. But Cody 69 goes up into a hospital parkade and does a bomb drop. That could be a cover. And it should be.
Yeah, dude, the OG Mike Bassich, I guess that's where it all started. So people got to pay tribute to that though, because, but yeah, I am seeing the bomb drop trend. I think it's fun, it's like just entertaining and all hell to watch. And at the end of the day, like when you're clicking on a snowboard video, you want to see tricks, but you want to be entertained. You want to have the facial expressions of, oh, fuck, what, So if that's going to be a bomb drop, I'm backing it.
Yeah, totally. It's about using the bomb drop tastefully in your video part. And I feel like the kit really goes a long way. You know what I mean? Like if the individual can pull off the acid drop or the bomb drop or like a switch up, the right person does it, you're kind of like, yeah, hit me with that.
Totally. And if you do it on something gnarly, it can't be disputed. That's one thing in snowboarding. It's like, if you do something that's so fucking gnarly or pushes the boundary in a way, then it's cool in that aspect, like nobody's going to talk shit if you do 100-foot bomb drop because you did 100-foot bomb drop. That's So there's always that aspect where if you fucking do it 6 changes up on like 100-foot down bar, we're going to watch it.
Hell yeah. What about, okay, why the step away from rails?
Ooh. Well, couple of things here. One, steel is scary as hell. And I was watching that video last night and seeing some of these dudes' facial expressions. I remember you're just like, I mean, snowboarding is different in the backcountry a little bit. So not being in steel, but being in the mountains is a little nice. Like getting kicked out of a spot after you built it, after you just traveled to Buffalo, New York and spent 4 days looking for a fucking rail, and then you build it and you get kicked out on the second try. It's just like shoot yourself in the fucking foot. That sucks. So that's one thing, but mainly I just see like when I go out and we ride, like you brought me to that zone in Brandywine that 1,000 people have all snowboarded at before. And I think when I tried to like jump on that pillow, that was like something new and different. And I guess that's like what I'm super stoked on is we have so much incredible terrain just in BC and in the world that I just want to like, I already know how to snowboard and I want to snowboard how I know how to snowboard in these new places and like figure out the little lines and just approach it, the world in like a way where you're just snowboarding on everything. And flow a little bit more, and powder is so fucking fun, right? Like, what's better than a pow day for all of us?
Nothing. That nothing
Yeah.
really at this point. I mean, a pow day, there's nothing better than it. It is the absolute best thing ever. You touched on your approach. Maybe describe your approach to snowboarding and how has that changed over the years?
Well, I mean, snowboarding in the backcountry is definitely a learning process. I'm pretty lucky. Like, I started riding a lot of park, especially back in Mammoth when I was like 16. Shout out to Zach Stone, came down to Mammoth and we were boarding together. Me and Zach go way back. And we would just do like 180s to 1080s like all day long on the bottom jump at Mammoth. And having that like background is super nice when you move to the backcountry, because then you like understand how the edges work and understand like, you know, how the snowboard works and maybe how to like prepare yourself to go off in the jump the right way or a side hit the right way or something like that. And then over the years, like the first video part I filmed was with Snowboarder Mag Forward, and Trent Ludwig was the producer on that, and we were all like super green, like me, Nils, Hans, Blake Paul, Sam Taxwood. It was all our first video, and Trent was just telling us, okay, the jump goes here, it's this high. We'd build it the night before, and we'd always let every jump sit, and then we'd come back the next day, and we all got a ton of sick shots. And then that was like what I started with. Then moving forward, like I went into filming with Absinthe, and I was over there in Europe with Vladdy, and every time he'd be like, Worm, this isn't gonna fucking work. And I'd be like, fuck you, Vladdy, watch me work. And then it would fail. And I did that all season long, just like failing on everything I did on my own, just because like it's really hard to figure out if you're gonna have enough speed and the trajectory and all things like that. So over the course of like 10 years of filming these video parts, I feel like I haven't actually learned a single trick, but what I have learned is how to do the tricks in the places that I go. And this year was like a good example. Me and Johan Rosen from Revi were putting a video together that's hopefully gonna drop here pretty soon. And like on our last trip of the year, we went to an undisclosed location in BC, and it was just the two of us. So we'd shred. I'd drive them up on the sled, I'd drive down, then I'd film them, then take turns like that. So when you only have two people, you cannot build a cheese wedge, you cannot build a good in run, you cannot build anything, you cannot get a fucking sled unstuck, you cannot have a second angle. So just figuring out like, how the hell are we going to get a snowboard shot without building, you know? And on one aspect, you don't spend a ton of time shoveling, but it makes it a lot more difficult. So I guess to bring this around, these days, my approach is just to like figure out something that to me seems pleasing and also like semi-unique, you know, like instead of going from A to B, what's something else I can do? Or even like, I love street influence snowboarding if I can do that in the mountains, like do a spine line where it feels like a 50-50, or like smash off this little pillow and then do a back three, kind of like a wall ride you'd find in the streets. But lucky for us, it already exists in the mountains. I mean, you're not building it, you're driving 60 fucking Ks up Rutherford every day in the rain and then switching into a snow jacket when the snow line hits. But it is there somewhere in the world, and finding it, and then hopefully your riding style matches whatever it is that you're looking at, and you can make it happen.
So you were on Capita for a long time, which makes sense. Mammoth, riding park, rails, touching into the backcountry. You've recently, or a couple years ago now, signed with Jones. Why the move over, and are you stoked? I mean, you're working with Jeremy Jones. It seems to me like it makes a lot of sense given your whole approach to the mountains and stuff like that. I think you aligned yourself with a good brand, but maybe just touch on that relationship. And yeah,
should I start with Capita? I mean, no bad blood there, but definitely I was helping out. They were helping me out with like $3,000 a year, and they didn't want to do that. And then I was like, okay, I'm not worth like the $3,000. Like I was just getting travel budget. I'm like, come on guys. And they're like, no, we don't have it. And I'm like, bullshit, it's somewhere, like, you know, it has to be. And they're like, no, it's not. And no bad blood, you know, I'm not going to take anything, but they couldn't come up with that. And I felt like at that point, like, I had been riding them for a long time and filming for these Absinthe starts. And, you know, you see that people go out to dinner in the industry, people do this. And I'm just like, dude, somewhere in the world, $3,000 exists. If it doesn't, then I'm just going to see what happens. And I decided to see what happens. And I kept it cruising, and yeah, linking up with Jones has been like the sickest thing that's ever happened to me. Greg Weaver's working there, Andrew Miller's working there, and a bunch of my friends are part of the program. And honestly, the snowboards are insane. Like when I got on my first Jones board, it just like carves so good. And to be able to have a snowboard that turns so good, it's like, it makes the groomers so sick again. Then I'm like so hyped on snowboarding. And then having my friends there. And then this year, like meeting Jeremy, we were riding Mount Hood, and he's doing R&D for the boards, and he's coming down and like tweaking his stance every run. And I'm super lazy. I just put the bindings on the snowboard, and then I leave it like once a month. I wax the thing. Jeremy's tweaking it every run. He's figuring out different angles. He's like so involved with the R&D just to make these things as much fun as possible. And they seriously are. So I'm super stoked to be on Jones. And then I do want to get more involved with like getting up on the top of mountains and seeing new places. And I mean, touching back on my trip with Johan, like one cool thing about being together is figuring out if it was safe or not. Like my whole life, I had these other people, and I'd be like, hey, Justin, should I do this? Is it safe? And I don't know if it was safe or not, but he'd be like, yeah, do it. And I'd have this like false sense of confidence and be like, all right, I'm gonna fucking send it, ready in 5. And then I remember like when my trip with Johan, like we got up to this face, and it wasn't good. We were too scared. We're like, it's only the 2 of us, and shit's gonna go down. And then we had camped out there like in the parking lot for a week, and it got super cold, so we were able to come back to it and find a lineup to hike up to it. And just like figuring out all that problem solving on my own was like insane, like way more scary, but it felt good to be the one making decisions for myself for a change.
I like that you were like, I know at this point I'm worth 3,000. I just did a board slide to fakie and cab 3'd into this crazy wall off of a roof, motherfucker. Like I just back 7 the biggest jump ever. Like there's some pretty strong video parts and some really strong clips. And I think that as a team manager at that brand, if you couldn't see the greatness in your snowboarding, because when I was young, I was watching, you know, I think that we're roughly the same age. We kind of grew up around the same era. And I was watching your career unfold, and I kept being like, that kid is really talented. Like his backside spins are not scrubbed. They're full pop. Like you really creative video parts and like a real ATV. Like you're riding everything. So at one point you got to be like, yeah, I'm worth the $3,000 and I'm going to go look elsewhere. And like, look where it got you, you know, if you're on Jones and you're happy. And I think that aligned with who you are more as a person anyway. And I think that I hope that they are so happy to have you a part of that team, because I think it's a really good look for them. You added like a really big fresh element, you could say, to Jones when I heard you sign with them. I was like, damn, that's a real good look for Jones. I hope they know how stoked they should be, because like Worm is the dude. And it's not just me saying that. Maybe I'll touch on that. It's like there's a lot of snowboarders, some of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. Recent bomb hole. You got Ben Ferg on there saying the most underrated snowboarder is Garrett, is Worm. Like the best of the best. What does that feel like to know that you're worth that 3,000? What does it feel like to be, you know, I don't know. It's like, how to say that you're underrated. I'll say it for you. You're underrated, but what in your head, like, how does that feel?
Well, taking it back to the $3,000, I don't think I ever was like, I'm definitely worth $3,000. But when you're in snowboarding long enough, how many dinners? Where's the place with sushi in Whistler? Sushi something.
Sushi Village.
Every snowboard company in the history of snowboard companies has spent more than $3,000 at dinner at Sushi Village. And we know that. So at some point, it's not like I'm worth that. It's just like, I think I'm worth one dinner at Sushi Village, right? Like, please don't go to dinner. Just tell everybody to buy pizza and I'm on the motherfucking team for good. Like, that's all I'm asking for. So it was always like just seeing that and being like, okay, well, and I don't know if those guys were ever at Sushi Village, and like I said, no bad blood, but it's more like you see that aspect of it and you're like, okay, well, that doesn't make me feel good, so I should do something that's going to make me feel a little better. And I guess it comes down to ego a bit as well. And yeah, Benford's shout was super nice. I mean, I think you'll probably agree with me that you would rather be overrated and have a brand new truck and sled than underrated and have like everything falling apart. But if that's the way it's going to be, I'll be hyped on it. And yeah, I just want to keep boarding. And I do feel like I'm getting way better at snowboarding. Like last year, I was having a good year, just not like I'm saying doing different tricks, but just like riding out of stuff and being like, oh fuck, what, I'm still on my snowboard. Didn't expect that to happen. So hopefully that'll follow. And yeah, just keep trying to board as much as possible, do some new shit.
Straight up, marketing budget on a brand, that's what it is. If you're going for those dinners, it's like that's their marketing budget. So I know there's a lot of team managers or whatever that are going to listen to this and be like, that's a different budget. Well, let me tell you from two athletes over here, why don't you just shift a little bit of that marketing budget to athlete budget and then tell everybody to go eat some pizza and then give Worm here $3,000. Like, I've been in the same shoes, dude. I remember asking, I'm not going to mention, but there's a couple brands that would come to Whistler and they would drop in. It was like dinners every night. They rent a ball and house it's like tens of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, broken down snowmobile. Brian Fox this year, I remember, because it was right after the shoot, was like, it was my first opportunity really to go out and shoot with like, you know, some Americans that were like in the scene. Brian's like, yo, dude, like me and Austin and Tim Eddy are in town. And I was like, dude, I don't have $50 to put in my sled. I don't have $10 to put in my sled. Like, I can't go. Like, I don't have any. And he's like, I'll fill you. And then he filled it up and we went out and, you know, some things kind of happened and it was sick. And I got a cool shot in Snowboarder Mag and it was like amazing. And shout outs to Brian for paying the gas there, which was really cool. I don't know if it was him or Austin, but one of them paid my gas. But the premise of the story was that like this brand was spending like $50,000-$60,000. And I was like, can you just give me $500? That, like, to a kid who's trying to make it, a couple $1,000s is like, if you give a kid $2,000, that's enough for like two-week rail trips. And that kid, if he's good and you believe in him, just filmed a full part. It's like, maybe move a little bit of that marketing budget into athlete budget. And then there's going to be there's going to be just so many kids that are just stoked on your company, that are getting the support they need. I feel like I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but like, yeah, totally. Just shift a little bit of the marketing budget over there.
Totally. The discrepancies between videos are fucking crazy, because you see videos that are made for like $2,000 that are sick, and then you see videos that are made for like $200,000 that are sick. But it's like they're both pretty sick, and you're like, I don't know, like that $198,000, what did it really do? You know?
Totally. I agree. And you also touched on like, you think that you're getting better. And let me tell you, from somebody who's never ridden with you, you're way better in person than your footage. And which is like, I mean that in like a really like a badge of honor, because you know a lot of people are better in their video parts than in person. You are so talented, and you are getting. And it's like you were throwing snowballs and you were landing on the snowballs. I'm going to do a method. I'm going to do a chicane. I'm going to do a back. Everything, you were landing to your feet perfectly. Like, yeah, of course, every once in a while you fall over because of this and that. But like the professional level was like there. I was like, every time you were hitting something, I was like, damn, this kid has got the it factor. Like it was really inspiring, and it was really motivating to ride with you. And I was really hoping that this whole Billabong chapter wasn't gonna close, because I was like, this person's so fun to snowboard with. They have such a cool perspective. They have a cool outlook on life. You're really positive. I think that you always think of the glass half full. I don't know where that comes from, but way to fucking go. Because it's captivating to be around, and you're really motivated to get good shots. And I was I was like, yeah, I was really impressed. And you can like ask any of my friends. I was like, dude, if Worm is around, we gotta get him to come film. This kid is sick. And yeah, you exceeded my expectations. And I already thought you were really sick. So if I was a betting man, if I was to bet on Worm as a stock, I'd be putting my money into you, because I really think that this new chapter that you're embarking on right now, I just see that like it's only going to get a lot better. I feel like your Nicholas Mueller, your Gigi, those type of parts are just about to unfold. And if I was Jones and I was listening to this, I would say bring him on a couple really important brand like trips, and you won't be disappointed. So that's my preach. Way to go,
Sick,
dog.
buddy. Well, yeah, let's definitely link up this winter. I mean, like we're saying, the snowboard world is small, and it's even smaller here in Canada. So I'm sure we'll cross paths. And like you were saying, like one thing I did last year that I was stoked on is every time I patted something down, I always had a trick in mind. And then once I did that trick, I was like, okay, it's something else, you know? So being able to just like have that trick in mind, stomp out the feature with that trick in mind, then it usually works for what it is. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'm finding like my first days with Absinthe, everything I did didn't work. And nowadays, most of the things I have in my head kind of play out for me. So stepping in the right direction.
Yeah, speed management, learning where to build your jump, learning how to build the pop, all that stuff takes so much long, and there's definitely such a skill set to it. And that's one of the things I was really impressed with, is that like I'd see you go off and build like a little poppy thing into this bank. I'm like, oh, is this gonna work? And then like that one method that I'm sure you remember, and the chicane and stuff, it was just like, you're walking around in the trees and you're trying to find something, within a couple 100 feet. And like your eyes, I was just like, damn, this guy has been filming with Absinthe. And I love that style of Absinthe where it's like in your face, fisheye clips. And I know that you've worked with Justin a bunch, and you guys have pushed the envelope of seeing how close you guys could get together with the fisheye. I've seen you on a couple switchback fives, one where you notably hit his lens.
Yeah, luckily the lens was all right on that one, but totally. And I mean, we were fucking milking it. So that always adds another element of like, what do you do when you shouldn't do anything here, but you have to do something, you know?
Sometimes those are the best clips though. Sometimes that's the magic, where you have you can either be lazy and sit on your sled and do nothing, or you're like, well, let's just see if this cool gap over this tree can work and I can land in this cool bank, or like let's just see if this like bonk to rail could be cool. Like there's not a lot to do. And then sometimes that ends up being like one of the most like the glue in the video part. Like there's all your bangers, but I like when people have the glue in between that kind of brings like some essence and some personality to the video part. You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be like the biggest trick and stuff like that. I want to see the cool gap method in the trees close with the fisheye on a really like snowy day. I like those clips.
Totally. And like that 50-50 off that little tree you did was sick. And I like glue more than filler for sure. That's got a much more charismatic ring to it.
Yeah, totally. Like filler, it's almost like I agree. It's more of like has a negative context to it, or like a negative spin, like, oh, there's your filler cab five.
Yeah.
Like you drifted, you didn't pop that much, you didn't really have the poke, but like it's filler. But like the glue, or we call them like essence shots a lot of time, at least for in the backcountry. Like if you have good turns or like a flowy line that looks good and the lighting looks good, like essence. And I don't know, Rusty always says that.
You
now
guys are
that he's
bougie over there, man, boys, eh? With the essence, the glue. I
essence,
like it, dude. I gotta
essence,
come with you guys.
you're in, dude. Um, you did a couple years with Bodhi. Um, Obviously both being on Billabong and just friends. I mean, melodrama, Pepper. Um, just touch on Bodhi as like an individual and a snowboarder, because he's definitely one of the best as far as naturally talented goes, no doubt.
Yeah, Bodhi's a man. I mean, he gets into it, you know, like Bodhi's there to do the most extreme insane thing he can do on a snowboard, and that's what drives him. And I totally back his passion. I'm lucky to like jump on his coattails, and I got to fucking hit a bunch of these crazy spots and see how Bodhi works. And he's super, super focused individual. And obviously his day is dictated by how well the snowboarding goes, which has its ups and downs. But on the other side of that, you see he's got like the world's best fucking video parts and the craziest tricks. Our pepper year was super rad. Like we had a super rad crew there. We actually spent a bunch of time up there at the Hurley. We kind of got, every time I've been in Whistler, I've kind of gotten screwed as far as like snow conditions went. But again, like small crews, so just trying to figure out what we can do with what we have. But yeah, it's always been sick to watch Bodhi ride and kind of see his approach to things. And yeah, he puts his fucking heart and soul into everything he does. And he's either going to make it and have the sickest snowboard clip out there, or he's gonna die trying. So props.
Yeah, totally. I agree. It's like some of the shit that he does, I'm like, damn. Like that one gap that you guys hit, a couple people have hit it now, but you do like the backflip and the back three over that channel gap. Dude, that thing is beast. What's that called?
I don't know what that's called. That's in Logan. So I remember I had just come back from Europe and I hit this fucking sketchy road gap, and Vlad, the Euro Absinthe head, he was like, oh, I got this road gap, blah blah blah. And I, at the time, I'm like, no, I wasn't the best builder. That's something I've gotten better at. But I was with Jaeger. Jaeger is a good builder, so he's like putting all these weird fucking snowballs, and we get this thing built up. And Jaeger's like, I'm gonna step out. I'm gonna let you hit this one. And it fucking worked out. And I got back to the cat check, and Vlad is like, nice, you're the first one to do that. I've looked at this for like 20 years, but nobody wanted to hit it. And I was like, dude, you told me it was like good. What the fuck? And then the next day, or a couple days from there, we hit that jump called the camel toe, in super big one there in Champéry. And it was with Savvy and Max and Keegan as well. We all played rock, paper, scissors, and I was like the first one to go. And then like they brought the heli out for that. So they're doing heli follow cam. And it was just like back to back, the two scariest things I'd ever guinea pigged. I got back to Utah because my car was there, and Bodhi calls me up. He's like, yo, you want to come out with me and Hans? We're going to like do this jump. And I'm like, sure, let's go out there. And Hans has got like a fucking chainsaw on his back of his snowmobile. We like go out there, we chainsaw this tree down, we fucking build the jump, and it's like a straight 50-foot or more, just straight cliff off that thing. And I was like, I told him, boys, I am not in the rock, paper, scissors. I'm like, I don't care if you don't let me hit this. I'm fucking done guinea pig things for like a little bit. I gotta chill on this one. So I think Bodhi went first, and then Hans went, and Hans like second or third try did this insane front seven. Like I'll fucking never forget it. He like did the most insane front seven, landed in the snowboard track. Like his snowboard just like did this little thing, and then he was out. It was just like a fucking miracle. And then they're like, yeah, you want to hit it? So I didn't have to guinea that one. Lucky for me. But yeah, that was definitely a fucking hair riser, and hitting some street spots with Bodhi too. Like I remember for that pepper year, it was just me and him staying at his house, and we were just double ladder crew. Every spot we had, there was like 2 ladders that we needed to use to get up to. We fucking like trying to like shuttle up one ladder onto the roof to get to up another roof is fucking crazy. Which now I'm seeing a lot of that shit in skateboarding. Actually, I'm seeing a lot of roofs in skateboarding now. It seems like it's transitioned over.
They took some inspiration from us. Was the jump that you hit with Keegan the one that you back 7 first try?
Yeah, totally. We built that thing all super crazy as well. Like, so I got lucky, back 7 it first try, and then after that we couldn't land anything between all 3 of us. But I think since I went first and some fucking how had the right speed, like the goalie wasn't too bad. But then after there was a few tracks, the goalie got like super fucked up and was not happening. But it was a fun jump. I remember like being in the air for a minute.
Maybe touch on guineaing that jump. The helicopter, this isn't drones, the real helicopter, the helicopter is in the air and you're riding into that thing. How do you know the speed? How do you guess? Do you throw a snowball? What's your technique?
So that was one of the few jumps I've hit that the snowball would not make it. My arm you couldn't throw the snowball from the lip to the jump. But Vladdy already knew what he was doing, and the hill maxes out there, so you just go as fast as you possibly can into the thing. And yeah, that was nuts. And I mean, especially with the helicopter, I mean, that's like the end of an era. Who the fuck would ever film something with a helicopter anymore in this day and age? But that was I think one other time I was at like a Snowboarder Mag launch, and they had a helicopter going, and I got a line filmed with that. But those are the only two helicopter experiences I've had as far as them filming me. But yeah, just a little bit of luck and a lot of balls. And like we're talking about, as far as like noticing nowadays, I don't spend too much time mapping things out. I just do what I think is right, and then my body does the rest on the way in. You know, like somehow in your brain, you're like, you kind of know your speed is there. And I think I maybe mentioned to you when we were together, but one of the first pow jumps, like the first real pow jump I ever hit, was with Vole and Arrow on a Billabong trip down to Chile at Christian's place in Dos Tiempos. And we built this thing, and I'm with like two of the sickest pow jumpers in the world. And we all played rock, paper, scissors, and I won. So I had to go first. And I thought they're joking, like, why are you gonna let me go first? You're Arrow and you're Vole, and I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. Just like hit the jump, let's get this over with. You know, it's catalog shoot. But they stuck to their guns. I won, and they're like, you're going first. And I remember I hiked up, and Vole's like, yo, you think that's good? You think that's the right speed? And I'm like, yeah, this is the right speed for sure. He's like, you got to take 10 more steps, and that's the right speed. And so I've always had that in my head, like for forever. And that seems to be pretty on point if you have that space to take the 10 extra steps.
You know what? That might be the best vague, very vague, and don't take it too serious, but that's kind of the perfect piece of advice. 10 more steps. I always feel like right when you think you know the speed, unless you're Rasmus goes 20 feet lower than all of us and will still overshoot the jump. But I'm always like this is, if I have to go first, I'm always like, yeah, 10 feet higher. Or
Yeah.
like at least a shuffle higher, you know what I mean? At least like a board length or something like that. But that's a good piece, a little. And has that worked for you, obviously? Because you keep using it?
Yeah, I think it's worked for me. And I guess too, at the end of the day, it's scary as shit, but you'd rather overshoot the thing than undershoot it. Nothing's worse than undershooting a jump and be like, well, that was fucking, nothing. So yeah, 10 steps.
Okay, so you threw on a lid a couple years ago. You didn't always wear a helmet. It seems like you wear it sometimes and you don't. What was the factor that came into play that made you go, I'm gonna start wearing a helmet?
I just started wearing one this time. First trip of the year, I was with Ryan Patterson, Johan, Dave McKinnon, Chris Anke, real OG crew from your neck of the woods. And I built this crazy thing with Johan, and I was trying to switch back one off of it. And it was like this weird step down with all these trees and stuff. And I was riding in switch, and I wore my helmet because the only helmet I had was the helmet I had, and I wore it snowmobiling. So snowmobiled out there in a freaking helmet, and I'm like, well, this is stupid. I might as well wear it instead of taking it off because it's already on my head. And yeah, it seems like a smart idea. And I'm coming into this thing switch, and I'm just sticking my head out too far, and I smoked my head on the tree just riding in switch. And then that throws me into this crazy ass switchback rodeo into some other trees. So after that, I've been wearing it a bit, and mainly trees freak me out more than anything, like rocks too, of course. But I've had a couple incidences with trees. Like I ran into a tree here at Whitewater a couple of years ago, and got super lucky. I was able to get my feet out in front of me, but I'm getting a little bit more timid around those trees. So
I think
every now and then.
I think that's a good takeaway. If everyone's getting powder frothy right now, it's the beginning of the year. The last thing that anybody wants right now is to get injured. We're all excited to embark on the best season ever, but it's so easy to quickly get bucked out of your line. I'm definitely I execute my tricks based on the surrounding area. And I definitely try in every way, shape, or form to like avoid trees, especially like just living here and getting a lot of the details of Mark McMorris's incident, like one of the best snowboarder, well, maybe arguably the best snowboarder ever, like, shitty kind of light, soft takeoff and drifts off to the side. Like nobody expects to drift, but yeah, drifted and hit a tree. And it's like, anyways, but yeah, so throw on a bucket or don't, do your thing, life's up to you. Something I wanted to ask you, on a more personal note, because you've brought him up a couple times. I know that you were very close with Jaeger Bailey, a big part of snowboarding, an amazing individual. I was curious to know if maybe you could give some insight to maybe who he was instead of, I was like, do I bring that up or do I not? And I'm like, no, like he was an amazing individual. This is a snowboard podcast. This is what you want to do. You want to share stories of snowboarders, and that's exactly what he was. So if you feel comfortable, yeah, maybe just touch on Jaeger.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that was one of the things I feel like with life, when bad things happen, it's easiest to turn a blind eye. At least that's what I do. And that's what I've tried not to do in this case, just because I feel like it's kind of a dishonor, So yeah, I don't mind talking about it at all. And going back to Marky Mark, maybe we'll throw him even in the top 3. Jaeger was a big fan of his as well. Yeah, I was thinking a little bit about this earlier, just like when I had met him originally. So I'll just jump into a few stories about linking up with him in the beginning and some filming stuff, and hopefully that will describe him a bit of as a person as well, without jumping into too much like eulogy shit or whatever. So I remember I did a contest, a video contest, I think. Remember the shakedown at Snoqualmie? And there was a shakedown. I actually did it with Zach Stone in Quebec, like way back in the day, but this was Shakedown Snoqualmie. I entered a video contest, and the winner got to go do the shakedown, and they were going to have a hotel room there. Won the video contest, went to the shakedown. It was like back when Austin Hironoka was like the dean of Snoqualmie and shit. And I got there, I didn't know anybody, and somehow ended up meeting Jaeger and his homie brother Jay, who was from Chewelah, Washington as well, kind of like filming him a bunch. And met Jaeger. Like 5 minutes later, the kid lost his keys to his car, which was parked up there. I mean, classic Jaeger, couldn't figure his shit out ever. And so I'm like, yeah, dude, you can like take this bus down with me and stay in my hotel room. So him and his homie came down. They stayed with me in Snoqualmie in this random hotel room. And we met in the shakedown. And I remember like being in that hotel room, he's like, you want to check my footage? And this was like his first part ever. It was like the Super Tramp or something. And I was so fucking blown away because I had never, I mean, especially then, because when I got older, I was like, oh, all you do is flip. Like, oh, fuck, like, I remember I went to that triple kink rail in Canada, in Calgary, and I front boarded it. And then like 10 minutes later, Jaeger switch front boarded it. So at some point I started to be like, yo, fuck you, dude. But at that moment, when I saw his footage for the first time, I was so blown away. Like he was doing all these flips and all this crazy shit. And he was just so passionate and so about it. And couple of years after that, we ended up living together in Mammoth, and that was like the glory days. It was me, Mitch Richmond, and Jaeger. We had a spot. I remember those were like the days of Videograss when they were doing the 2 movies. We'd like go to the snowboard store, buy the movie, and then shit was on repeat. And then all we wanted to do was snowboarding. And like those were the days when we were talking shit. We're like, fuck that dude, fuck we're 18. You're just like, okay, this dude's the best ever, but that dude kind of comes after him. We skip his part or whatever, just stupid kids. And yeah, that was awesome. And then we ended up always kind of like living together and just hanging out in Mammoth, always doing stuff like that. We were always traveling for the launches and stuff. Jaeger was like a mess at traveling and stuff. So he had some insane opportunities that we were kind of like talking about, and he did his best to like stay on him, but I think a couple of them kind of slipped by him. And then, like Mammoth and every mountain town, it's kind of tough places. I feel like as far as like you're so isolated, and people get really caught up in what they're doing and comparing it to other people's. And I mean, I'm still trying to like navigate myself out of those habits, you know, self-comparison and all this shit that I'm sure occurs everywhere. But when you're involved in snowboarding and you're like trying to post clips on Instagram and see how many people like it and this and that, it's like really easy to get caught up in like, oh, but this guy got that and I'm getting this and my fucking trick is just as sick as yours, and just links back to kind of the bitterness shit that we're talking about. And yeah, so I'm ranting on here. So from there, like Snoqualmie, that was the first time I met Jaeger. We were living together in Mammoth and always doing stuff, and we had a super competitive relationship, which was good. And I remember like every day he'd just be like fired up to do something, like let's go film Instagram clips, let's do this, let's do that. And at the time I was always like, yeah, oh, but now I look back, and I mean, even today when you said you like that video of mine of splitboarding from the house, like I'm like, is this fucking stupid? I'm really gonna film an Instagram video of me putting my splitboard on the house. And then I hear like Jaeger's voice in the back of my head, like, yo, let's go film a fucking Instagram video today. And I'm like, all right, let's do this, you know, like even if it's stupid, whatever. And Jaeger was definitely the king of that. And he was like the most happy, outgoing individual. And yeah, unfortunately, I don't know how much you want to get into like the negative stuff or the positive stuff. I'm happy to talk about it. I had some, you know, some my own moral compass. Like, do I talk about this stuff or not? And one thing I noticed is like, if there was something that happened between the two of us, well, now it's all on my shoulders. Like I own the story. There's only two parts of it and one part's gone. So I'm trying to just be like, yeah, fucking own it, right? Like tell it how I want to tell it, and everything else. And at the same time, you know, I think that's how it should be. I think that's respectful, even if it doesn't come out how that person would want to be it. I feel like if you own the story, then yeah, maybe it is respectful. Anyways.
Totally. Do you feel after his passing that you navigated your life or even snowboarding differently?
I feel like I'm still recovering from the trauma of that, obviously. I think I obviously look at life a little bit differently, and just like fragility. And then also, you know, we all have our own vices, and sometimes vices are good compared to what else is out there in the world. You know, and so I think I'm trying to learn from that and everything else. I was just thinking of another story that I really haven't told before, but if you look back kind of at some of my parts, like I did an Absinthe part here called Channel Zero. I've got this green hat on, and I wore this green hat religiously. And the first time me and Jaeger, I went up to his grandparents' house because he actually grew up with his grandparents in Chuila. And I get to his house and I open his closet, and it's chock fucking full with new gear, like 30 pairs of Nike shoes from the one time they sent him shoes, and like every single thing he's ever worn from the rail jam, like in this closet, just total hoarder status. And I'm like, dude, give me something. And he wouldn't give me shit. I'm like, dude, you're such a fucking like piece of work. Come on, give me something from this insane closet. And he pulled out this super shitty green hat. And he's like, I'll give you this hat, but you have to film a clip in it. So here in Nelson, in my Absinthe video part, I do like this fucking ride to the tree, and then I land and I do a back lip on this little rail, and I'm wearing the green hat. So I officially got the green hat. And then after that, like me and Jaeger had a kind of tumultuous relationship. Like he'd talk shit to me and I'd be like, oh, fuck you, or we wouldn't talk for a while. Just kind of like brothers or something like that, you know, lots of ins and outs, especially when you start living with people and stuff like that. So during the time that he was alive, I remember texting him a bunch and being like, dude, guess what? I just fucking burned your green hat, blah, blah, blah. Like I'd always say that, like, fuck you, dude, the hat's gone. And of course I never threw away the hat. And then, yeah, once he's passed, I had that thing on religiously. And anytime I was going to do something that was like a little bit gnarly, I always wore the green hat. And yeah, I don't know, somehow you kind of like, you feel the spirit in the air. I don't know. Somehow I feel like I got a little bit more annoying and a little bit more obnoxious and a little bit more like, let's go film. Like some of his aura entered me, and I don't know how, but you know, now I'm like got that little bit of things that I would have been like, dude, chill the fuck out. Like we're just hanging out. Like now I'm that guy from time to time. So I don't know how it all goes down. But yeah.
What a rad way to continue his legacy, or however you would like to articulate that. But the green hat, that's amazing. I've had a
Yeah.
couple good friends pass away too, and I have my own little way of talking to them. I have my own little way of, especially like they were both snowboarders, two really close friends of mine that passed, and I like whenever I'm in the backcountry, I use him as a weapon. I literally do this once a year. My whole crew knows about this, but one of my good friends I grew up with, his name was Fred, who passed, RIP, love you, dog. Every time I'm like really scared in the backcountry, I'm like, all right, Fred, let's fucking do this, dude. Let's fucking go. Cause he would get so juiced up when like we would send it, because he was like the chiller at the hill. You know, he was more of like he was the vibe setter. He was never trying to be like the best one at the hill. He was all about the vibe. And so I've definitely taken that and have like my own little funny, unique relationship with him after his passing. But it's weird, dude. It's like, I don't know if you have the same thing, but it's like when I let myself drop into feeling him and feeling like vulnerable and like being like, I want to feel connected to you right now, it like really happens. Like I feel so like my emotions, and like whether I land the trick on that drop or the next one, it's like this like weird intimate connection I'm having like with what I would like to say is like this spiritual other side. And I'm like, no one's taken that away from me. I feel like when I've had those moments in the mountain with him, I'm like, that was us and we fucking did it. And it's I'm sure there's a lot of people that have their own unique ways of celebrating loved ones that have passed, but I think each way is like special and really cool. So I like that you have the green hat. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
hell yeah to Fred too. Like, I don't know. I grew up like pretty much atheist with my parents. Like we weren't going to church and stuff. And even now, like you're like, should I talk about Jaeger? Like death becomes so taboo, and not like we have such a weird way of handling it that it's like
Totally.
it's fucking crazy. And that was like with the thing. I never want to like not talk about Jaeger or like shy away from that. And I know I do sometimes, but it's like that's I feel like the dishonor, you know, to be too afraid of it, to look it in the face. And the best thing to do is just be open, I guess. And yeah, like society and everything else is it's tough to know how to handle the shit.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's no magic pill, there's no quick way to healing, especially like sometimes you don't even know how much of an impact somebody had on you until they're gone. Like, you know, I'm older now, and I've had a lot of people that mean a lot to me pass over the years. Like some of them pass and it was like, man, that was really like it was great that we crossed paths and stuff. And then some people that you didn't even realize that they would have such an impact. Like they pass and it's like, I don't know, like this one guy I used to do taekwondo with, his name was Andrew Dunn. And like my mom called me and told me about his passing. And like, dude, I couldn't even handle it. I didn't even know that he like meant that much to me. And I was like even just talking about it, like it's tough still. I'm like, damn, like, and it's special to have those people pop in and out of your life. It's a crazy ride, this thing, life. And the people that you cross paths with, you never know like how important that person is to you. It's like, and so I think a lot of people, the taboo thing about like death and like this whole subject is like, and people say it, and it's easy to see it on Instagram and shit, and it kind of pisses me off because I almost feel it's like this annoying like trend. But like you really do need to tell the people that you're close with that you do love them and that you do appreciate your time with them, because you just don't know when it's not going to be there.
Totally. And like you're saying, trauma is like crazy. Like I'm trying to even overcome this, and I feel like there's so many layers and it hides in so many places. And then like you do something that's so different, that's so unrelated, and maybe you do it in a way that you're not happy about, or some shit comes up, and it's like we're so interconnected with our spiritual mind, brain, everything, that the trauma fucking gets in there super deep. And it's a tough one to work out and totally, I mean, no, even for myself and for you, it's like nobody's going to tap you on the shoulder and be like, hey, your trauma's done, you're healed from this experience. Like, we got to learn what we can and harv it, like for yourself, like, you know, that your homie fires you up to go bigger and to do shit that you're scared to do. Like, I think that's probably a good description of overcoming trauma. And I don't really, you know, who knows what they say psychologically, but just like figuring out what you can grow, what you have to leave behind, and just, yeah, I guess that's life, right? Nobody's going to tell you how to do it. You just got to figure out the best way forward and keep moving, because there's no fucking other option than to keep moving, right?
I totally agree. You just want to like, and let your feelings come, and don't get mad at them, because it's like they can alter day to day. It's like there's no consistency to it. And I think that's the best thing about I don't do a lot of meditation, but I like yoga and I like taking some time for myself. I like walking in nature. I moved to the island and I did 2 years there, and I didn't know anybody. I literally, during COVID, I moved to the island and I was there alone with my now fiance, and it was just like I would just walk around alone, and it was really nice to just be alone with my thoughts for a couple years. And just like, I never thought I would be happy doing that, but I really became like content. And I had a really cool conversation with somebody the other day about like drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling. It kind of keeps you running at like a really high level. You know, you're trying to reach that like 99%. And then there's the aftermath where you feel like you're 1%, you're barely hanging in there. But people need to just be happy 51%. It's like there's nothing great about it, but it's like just having a cup of coffee and there's nothing special going on. And, you know, you don't need anything to, you're not trying to look for any like mind altering experiences, and just being content with your own like thoughts and being alone. Like, I always just try to hover in the middle, like 50%, man. It's like, that's a good day. Like, as soon as I get, and then sometimes, yeah, of course, I like to go drinking every once in a while and smoke a little bit of dope or whatever like that. Or this stage of my life, I've been a lot more open to like microdosing psychedelics or whatever. And I feel like I'm mature enough to like navigate that conversation. If anybody was like, what, you know, wait, you've done mushrooms? I'm like, dude, for me, they've just made me a better person. It was just like, I'm like, oh, I look at nature differently. I look at everything differently. And I think different perspective is what to me makes me like learn more. And then I'm like, okay, like how do I want to navigate my life so I can live the most fulfilling, healthy life possible? And I think I've gotten pretty good at it over the last couple of years. Just 51% is dope. And people who want to rev at 100 and have, you know, orgies all day and do all the drugs in the world and rev at that 99, it's like that 1% is coming for you.
Totally, dude. And I mean, like what I was saying before, like vices, I think are kind of good if they keep you in check with everything else. Like, if you want to microdose mushrooms, and in turn you're going to be a happier person to yourself, which in turn maybe you're happy to other people and they're happier, like, oh, by all means microdose mushrooms. And like you're saying, like I touched before on mountain towns kind of being tough, and I think like when you move to Victoria and you don't know anybody, that's such a good experience, and that's so humbling. Because one thing at snowboarding is you can be like in Whistler and Mammoth, you can be surrounded by people that fucking adore you 24/7, and I think that can really go to your head. And like last year when I decided to go to music school up here, I was like, nobody played music in my house growing up, and everything I was learning was like fucking not sticking in my brain, and I just like was the worst in school. And everybody likes me, everybody loved me, but as far as like being good at the stuff, I was like always the worst. And some days I just have to go snowboard afterwards and be like, fuck yeah, see, I don't suck at something. So I think it's really good, humbling experience to get ourselves out of our comfort zone as much as possible. And
Yeah, we talk about that a lot on the podcast, but that is the go. And every one of my friends that's excelling in life, they're really good at stepping out of their comfort zone. Whether that's like doing another 20 minutes at the gym, whether it's taking an ice bath when they don't want to, whether it's like, I like that 1% better every year or every day. Sorry, not every year. I like striving for that. And every day, this is kind of tacky, but I think that we're kind of hitting these notes right now. But when I'm in the shower, I just say, just be 1% better every day. That's like my goal. So I shower before I go to bed every night. So I get in the shower and then I say, like, do I really think that I was like 1% better? And there's a lot of avenues that you can be 1% better. You could be a better friend. You could be a better, family member, however that is. You could be better spiritually. You could be better at your job. You could be better at just like the average tasks in your life. But I just try to strive for that. And then it's just like, it's a small goal that I feel like I can catch every day. And a lot of my friends who are addicts and trying to like get over that chapter of their life, they always call me and they're like, damn, like I'm relapsing or I'm drinking again or I'm doing drugs again or whatever. And I'm like, dude, like, don't get mad at yourself for taking a step back. Like, that's inevitable. You know what I mean? You're not going to be getting better every day, but as long as you're like gradually getting better over time and it, like, there's a couple downfalls, but then you have a couple good days. And as long as you have a couple more good days than the bad, that means you're heading in the right direction. And just pat yourself on the back for the wins, man, because it's not going to always be, you're not going to be walking away with W's every day.
Yeah, dude, that's the thing. Like we're talking, taking time, like fucking taking time to acknowledge the W's, and whether it's a cup of coffee or not. I'm something I would like to get better at, just like, being super present in the moment. But everybody can say that shit. We all have to be more present. So
Yeah, it's a goal that everybody strives for. So just like, everybody, there's nobody that's like fully content. I don't think that that's like an achievable goal. It's like if you're trying to be happy all the time, that doesn't exist, because the reason why you're happy is because you know what negative feels like, and it's inevitable to have both. But that's the reason why I try to hover in the middle, like not too, like, obviously there's going to be some days where you ride POW and it's the best day ever, but then some days it's going to be a sheet of ice. You're going to come up a little bit short on the jump and you're going to be fucking pissed.
yeah,
and that's just
life.
how it goes.
Yeah. And then you go again the next day regardless, because why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that was a therapy session with me, and take all that with a grain of salt and navigate how you see fit.
Yeah, hopefully all humans are just a little bit, or at least 51% nice, and then fucking world should keep turning.
Yeah, hopefully they strive for more than 51% on the nice scale, because it's like you can still fake it till you make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I really try to be nicer. I used to be really close-minded, because if you didn't snowboard the same as me and you didn't see life the same as me, I was like, I just don't fuck with you. Like, I remember being like on Tech 9 and Grenade and that whole world. And I was just so like, that was my world. And it was just like, I remember going to like house parties and being like, oh my God, like nobody here snowboards, nobody gets it. And like, I can't be here because like, I don't fuck with these people. And now it's like, I got friends that are, bankers. I got friends that are electricians. I got friends that are stay-at-home dads. I got friends, all sorts of friends. And I'm like, damn, like cutting out all those other people because they don't fuck with the same shit as you is kind of just like, I don't know. It's a world that's not for me. I like hanging out with people that do different things.
totally. And everybody's just trying to grind and fucking do their thing. I mean, that's like the same common thread between like everybody that you're probably friends with and everybody that I'm probably friends with, is they're doing their thing to the best of their ability, whatever that is, and however good they're doing it. That's probably a pretty honest try, and that's why we're all on the same page.
Okay, maybe on that note, what keeps you motivated snowboarding wise? Why do you strive to continue to be better?
Well, to be honest, I feel like I haven't hit that point where I've been able to do what I can do, and I know that, and year after year, like, we're on this Billabong trip. It's a fucking catalog trip. We don't need to do our best snowboarding. We need to do fucking sick pow turns that look good at this angle that are going to sell to people in Europe who like this fucking sort of pow turn. And then year before that, like, did my own project, Tenderfoot, on YouTube, and like we had no money, and it was all about like trying to see the inside of snowboarders. Like, we interviewed J Rob and a couple other people. My buddy Quinn and Manuel was there with us, and Jaeger was on some of those trips as well. And I just feel like push comes to shove, you need kind of an army behind you to do the best snowboarding possible. And you kind of see that in that big budget stuff. And, like, you obviously understand the undertaking of building a fucking big powder jump. It's like, everybody on the crew's got to be on point. Everybody's got to be fucking kind of like synced up and stoked to be there and stuff. So I feel like I got a lot of shit in me that I haven't been able to do yet, and I want to get that out, and hopefully I can.
I feel the exact same way. If I was trying to articulate that, that's exactly what I would have hoped to say. That's perfect. Because it's like, yeah, I feel that when I look at your snowboarding right now and that day or two that we kind of got it and the terrain was good and the snow was good, I was like, I got a glimpse into what I think that you're capable of. If I was a team manager, I'd be like, damn, I'm betting on you. I said that earlier, though. On that note, I'm going to ask you a couple questions here, and then I'll let you get on your way. Who do you think has the best style currently, and who kind of had the best style back in the day?
Who had the best style back in the day? Obviously Nico, obviously Gigi are huge up there. I'm trying to think of fucking JP Solberg style was so sick back in the day too. I kind of got into snowboarding. Like my first snowboard video was Lost in Transition. And I remember seeing like Mikkel Bang and Luke Matroni and Freddie Ostabo were like Burton Smalls. And you're a kid, you're just like, oh my fucking God. That's like, how could you be cooler than Freddie Ostabo and Mikkel Bang and when they're Burton Smalls, you know? So all that shit was insane. And then obviously moving into Absinthe and watching those guys ride with like that European fucking style was like insane, you know? Then going forward, like, yeah, when I was with Absinthe those years, like Max Blurry style was insane. And I loved watching J-Rob and Manuel snowboard, and Bodhi was doing like the most insane shit out. Now, style wise, who am I super stoked on? Well, Jody, you've got good style. I mean, you've heard it before, but definitely you've got some insane style up there. I think Nils was kind of on fire this year. He's like got a different style, but his snowboarding is insane. And I linked up with him a few times, and he was not falling over for no reason. And obviously, like Savvy and Max over there in Europe, like some of these new European riders, they're like flip insane. I was pretty stoked on some of the clips I saw in Bahamas this year. Some cool shit went down there. Sorry, I'm being kind of vague with names, but yeah.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen Bahamas yet. I'm not gonna lie, because that would make me a liar.
Don't do it.
But another thing is I ordered a TV on Black Friday, and there's a lot of people right now that are like, fuck you, you're supporting Black Friday. But I needed a new TV because my TV is I've had it for like 15 years. It's like a really, really big, thick, flat screen. And I thought TVs were going to be super expensive, but they're literally just giving them out these days. I bought a TV for like, that's super dope. And it was like 60% off. And I was like, it was like $300. And I was like, what? I thought TVs were like $2,000.
Okay, I got some names though, because honestly, Max Warbington right now is one of my favorite fucking people to see in snowboarding. His stuff is insane. I love Max's style. And then Bend Oregon crew is insane. Like Ben Ferg, Gabe Ferg, Big Air Jer, and Mason Jar. All those dudes have super sick style. And then, yeah, Max's riding is like one of my favorites to see right now, even though it's like a different mindset than what I would do. But I just think he's fucking crushing.
Sick. I like that you went back to that quickly to give a couple more plugs. I'm a big fan of the Fergs. Both of those brothers are the modern day, whether they like it or not. I look at them like the modern day John Jay and Eric, and they both have their own style, and they're both just very, very sick. If you could do one trick forever, what would it be?
Ooh, probably like a method. Probably a method. Yeah. I gotta say, like, I grew up like my favorite thing was Nico above the binding, fully fucking wrenched back. None of that grab melon and tweak it out, but straight above the binding Euro Steed. Just fucking crank it. Fly.
I like both. I like both a lot. If I was gonna do a method in Japan, I would like to see it on the nose. But if I was going like Whistler backcountry, I kind of like in between the bindings a little bit more like melon. But I don't really like the method between the bindings. I don't like kicked out like a normal method. I like the really cranked Nicholas Mueller methods on the nose. And then I like the skate style melon kind of crooked cop method tweaked out. I don't know, Mark Frank kind of style. I used to call them Tech Nine methods. Deadlung had a really sick one. They weren't like quite methods, but they're like this really tweaked up melon. Oh, they're so sick. Anyways, this podcast is not about me. So
none of that melons and method shit though. We're past that stage. You just gotta fucking straight give it to her, you know. That'll be my shit talking for the episode.
That's your shit talking. Is there anything? Is there anything in snowboarding that pisses you off to this day and age? Well,
just be true to yourself. Everybody's found a fucking sick avenue by being true to yourself. Like, you know, Max Warbington is doing his shit and he's fucking crushing it with Rainbow. Then you got Nick Russell, who just like kept living in the fucking mountains of Bolivia, and now he's doing Red Bull shit. And like, I feel like if you're true to yourself, you'll find a place in snowboarding, and just fucking be who you say you're gonna be, or be who you are on Instagram, and that's cool. But don't fake it for the young kids, you know.
So maybe don't be. Well, yeah, totally. I know what you're saying there. I'm worried that a lot of people who post stuff on Instagram, they post it because they hope people like it. Because I think everything we post on Instagram, I think that you're hoping a certain group likes it. I don't often post stuff that I'm like, everyone's going to like this. But I often post stuff that I'm like, I post it and I'm like, it'd be cool if Worm and Mickle Bang like this. And if I get a couple, like you get a good like Mickle like on something, you're like, damn, I'm a big Mickle fan too. So I kind of heard the hype in your voice when you were talking about Mickle there, so I thought I'd add that one.
Yeah, Bird and Smalls are sick, dude. I had a T-Rice like the other day, not a follow, but just a straight like out of the blue, and I was like, all right, I don't really give a fuck how many likes it got, how many views it got. T-Rice liked it. I'm good. I'm happy with it. Let's move forward. That's a win for me. Yes. I don't know why, but yeah. Thank you, Travis.
It's not about quantity, it's about quality. So if you're getting likes from other snowboarders that kind of fuck with your avenue, that kind of are in the same lane, that means you're doing something right. You know what I mean? If you're out on the steel and you get like a Jed like or a Danimals like, and you're like, okay, like I'm doing something right here. And if you're riding POW and you get a like by Travis Rice, you're like, fuck, doing good. Check. Good for the day. Yeah, One like just from Travis, fucking clock out.
Call it a day.
Who's the most underrated besides yourself?
Who's the most underrated? Dude, I gotta watch all the snowboard videos and come back to you on that.
Oh, we'll put that one on. We'll put it on pause.
I mean, a lot of the homies are getting love though. Stoked to see that. My homie Mason Jar's been crushing it. He's been getting love. He's gonna be blowing up soon. And got some other homies from Ben Dimitri. He's crushing it, and everybody seems to be finding a little love. So stoked on that. Shower the homies with love.
100%. What's the best trick you've ever witnessed with your own eyes?
Fuck, dude. J-Rob's air over the biggest air I've ever seen. I'll find the clips on my Instagram, actually. You can check it out. I think I posted it. But as far as shit that sticks out to me, I mean, like, that sticks out to me beyond anything else, because I was just like tripping. I was like, you're fucking jumping. He jumped the whole mountain, dude. He jumped the whole mountain, Jody.
Yes.
Straight up.
Okay. Career highlight.
Career highlight, definitely spending time in Europe. And also I rode a line in Alaska called Spiney's Dragons is what we named it, with Mark Solers actually. And that was career highlight. First time I went up to Alaska, spent like a month up there almost with Absinthe, but I was like, B crew. So when it was really good, they'd just leave me in the fucking TP and go get the most insane shots. But I could like tag along on some other days and stuff. And Mark Solers randomly came up. I'll tell the story. Hopefully he's cool with it. But I remember Mark had just got there. I had been there for like 3 weeks, and we fly to this insane fucking thing. And I had been watching Nicholas do his thing, like just being like a fucking goat up there on all these crazy ass mountaintops. And I was with Austin too, but mainly I was with Nicholas a bunch, and I was just watching him, and I didn't have to do anything. I just go up there, and I remember like the first thing I rode was this crazy line and Buns of Steel, and Nicholas went, and then Cocard went, and I was the last person up there, and I was straight crying. They took all the snow away, and it was just fucking so gnarly and hairy. I was just up there like, how the fuck am I gonna get down? So skip to like 3 weeks of doing that. Me and Mark get in this helicopter with Vladdy, and we go to this crazy line called Spiney's Dragons, and it's Mark's first day up there, and I'm just like gung-ho hungry. Only spine run I've ever done in my life. And Solers is like, dude, I don't think I'm gonna ride it. And Vladdy's like, you're fucking Mark Solers. You're getting out of the helicopter and you're gonna ride it. So the heli like pulls up, and Mark's like, all right, I'll get out for sure. And so I get out, and Mark's like tripping, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna do what I saw Nicholas do. And he was always just building these little platforms, getting a little area to sit because it's all knife ridge. So I just did what I thought Nicholas would do. And then I was like, I'm gonna ride. I rode it first, and I was like hopping on these spine walls, and all the snow was going on down through the middle. And I did like these 3 turns on this panel, and then I tried to jump the Bergstrom, and I fucking fell on the Bergstrom because it was like way bigger than I thought, because I had only seen it from the helicopter. It's like I thought it was probably 5 feet, and it was like 30 feet. And then I remember telling Justin, I was like, please, the only thing I care about in my part is keeping this thing. And it was in my part. And I went to the Absinthe premiere, and it was in Zurich, and he had cut it. And I was so pissed. I was like, and in hindsight, it was a good call. They had a lot of amazing Alaska footage from that year. But I was like, dude, the only thing I care about is don't cut that. I know I fell. But sadly, the best of the best have to bring out the axe. I hear Mac Dog does it, Justin does it. They know.
That was epic. All right, one piece of life advice.
Dude, don't get bitter and keep moving. That's all we got in life. If you don't keep moving, there's no other option. So put the other foot in front of the other, and try to make the best out of it. I mean, we don't really know what we're doing here or what our purpose is. So put a smile on, be nice to others.
I like the bitter. I love that you said that. No one said that one yet. And there's not a lot of people I've met that are openly bitter, but it's a bad look. You can see it every once in a while. And dude, hell, I've been there, dude. Like, you look at what somebody else has got, and then you look at what you got, and you think you justify, you're like, well, I deserve X because of X. And then that's an easy cycle to get bitter. But you got to catch yourself quick, because that means that you're about to be bitter, and being bitter is fucking horrible. It's the worst. It's a bad quality.
Like being angry, it's like at the end of the day, the only one that really is affected is yourself, because you're going around being fucking angry and being like bummed out at things. And then you're like, shit, not only am I angry, but now I'm like super bummed out because I'm angry, and the whole other 8 billion people in the world are off having a good fucking time, and look at me being angry for whatever reason. So not beneficial in life. Easy road to go down. We've all gone down it, but good to realize it and turn around if possible.
All right. The grand finale. Who is the GOAT?
The GOAT? The greatest of all time. What do
Open to interpretation.
Open to interpretation. Dude, I'm gonna just go out there and say Justin Hosnick.
Sick.
Made the greatest snowboard videos of I've ever watched. Actually, he just tried calling me during this interview. Great friend, and like from that day forward, Justin's always been so fucking involved with snowboarding and so passionate, and he's brought so many different snowboarders together and facilitated so much progress in the sport. I mean, let's look at Travis Rice's double fucking flip over Chad's Gap. Obviously, Travis Rice was going to be just fine, but you know, he got a little bump from Absinthe too. So Nicholas Gigi, I mean, they're all goats, but at the end of the day, Justin was holding a camera. I want to give him the shout, GOAT.
That was dope. That's a first. Okay, any other shout outs you want to give or closing remarks?
Dude, a little extra shout is Jeremy Jones is pretty much a goat. Like, he snowboarded the gnarliest lines out of everybody. He's stayed out of harm's way relatively while doing it because of his like in tuneness with the mountains. He's gone on to be a super successful business person that brings like rad ethics into his company. His whole family still shreds. And the dude, I went to Mount Hood with him this summer. I can't keep up with him. Every run, I was like, my fucking feet hurt, blah, blah, blah. Jared's just like, let's go, let's go, let's go. 1:45, we got 15 minutes left. And I couldn't keep up with them. So shout out to Jared for secondary goating it.
That's so sick. And I will say, in case for our audience that's watching this on YouTube, I'm in a room right now filled with pianos that's not heated. So I'm wearing like 5 thermals and a beanie. I just think I look so bundled up. I just quickly saw on the little small icon in the corner. I was like, holy fuck, I look like an Eskimo. So the reason why I'm dressed like that is because I was cold. Closing remarks for you. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for just being you. I think that there's a lot of snowboarders who end up biting other snowboarders, but the best snowboarders really just kind of develop and kind of work on their own skills and hone in on what they're best at. Because nobody's going to be the next JP Solberg. Nobody's going to be the next Trevor Andrew. It's like they've already been done. And I think that like who you're becoming and what you've already done, let's not overlook that. But I really do believe that your best footage is yet to come, which is exciting because you've already done so much. But I really do believe that it's going to be really exciting in the next couple of years. I really hope Jones gets behind you big time, and at least in a project where you can get good cameras to film your snowboarding, because you've got the it factor, man. It's so fun to go out with you in the mountains. And yeah, I'm just grateful that you set aside some time to come on the podcast, man. I'm a big fan, and it's one of those, like, once I met you, I was a way bigger fan. And I think that there's a lot of people in snowboarding that would say the same, because I don't hear a fucking bad thing about your name anywhere I go. Everybody speaks highly of you and your riding. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Hell yeah, Jody. Thank you so much for having me. And what a fucking sick and fitting room for this interview.
I know. I normally put up this drop sheet, dog, that's like kind of shitty. And then I was like, fucking homie plays the pianos. Like, let's flex these pianos.
Yeah, dude. I got 3 in the house too here, actually. And I am doing a movie this year with Johan out of Revi, my Swedish homie that you probably know.
Oh, Johan's our boy.
Of course. We got
Shout out.
Sushi Suzuki up in there. We got Ryan Patterson in there. I kind of merged with the Canadian crew this year, kind of try to fizzle my way in there. But yeah, we're dropping a project here any day now. So hopefully you'll like that. Hopefully it's got some footage in it as well that should be fired up. And thank you so much for having me, dude. It's been really nice to talk to you. I mean, I know we know each other. We were snowmobiling, blah, blah, but it's been really nice to chat in a different state of mind, different place, blah, blah, blah. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our next hanging out in person. I'm looking forward to that. So until then, take care, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Jody.
That was amazing, dude.
Are we off the air?
We're about to stop recording to the